Hello, I'm John Sandbach, and I want to talk to you a little bit about a system of astrology called degree frequencies. This is a system which is very obvious, and yet we really find no books on it at all. I first encountered the idea from Elias Lonsdale, who gave a series of lectures on this system in California. It's a very simple idea. It's just that the number of the degree matters. In other words, the second degree of each sign, the number 2, 2 has a certain frequency, a certain meaning. And in every sign it's found, like 2 Virgo, that 2 will influence that degree. Or 2 Taurus, the 2 influences the degree, just like the 3 would or the 17 would or any other number. So this can help you greatly with your interpretations, because if you have a sense of what each one of these frequencies means, then you can combine that meaning with the meaning of the particular sign that that degree is in, blend those two, and get some idea of the significance of the degree. I have certain frequencies that I really like, that I really vibe with. One of them is 29, the 29th degree of any sign. 29 is a very experimental frequency. It's a frequency of magic. It's a frequency of going to extremes to see what happens. I have my own sun in the 29th degree of Taurus, and the Chandra symbol for that degree is a man amuses himself by drawing strange shapes. And I'm very much into art, and I've always been fascinated in paintings by unusual shapes and what shapes allude to what they feel like. And I think that too in my writing that I draw strange shapes to open up new possibilities, or possibilities to see into other worlds of existence. And so with every single 29 in each one of the signs, that gives the magic of that degree. Another very interesting frequency is 30. That is the last degree of any sign. This is where the sign reaches completion, reaches totality and fullness. My friend Sandra Sandy has her Neptune in the 30th degree of Virgo. And so one of the symbols for that degree is of a man sitting under a tree and a piece of fruit just falling off the tree into his lap. And so it's a degree of perfect timing, of things coming together in a very precise way. She has Neptune in that degree, so she intuitively tunes in to those precise moments and how things can come together in that very clear way. Now, of course, every frequency has its negative side, so 30 could be a frequency of stagnation. It's where the energy of that sign reaches full stagnation. Okay. Let me think of some other ones that I really like. The first degree of every sign is very impulsive. It has a quality of being very spontaneous, kind of almost doing something before it even knows it's doing it. It just is suddenly into something, and it doesn't really think first. It's very, very fast, very instinctive. My Mars is in 0 degrees of Virgo, kind of at the opposite end from Sandra's Neptune. And the Chandra symbol for that is a volcano erupting at night, which I very much relate to. Other frequencies that I like are the 5s. The 5 of any sign is about going deeper, trying to expand the limits of the degree, seeing deeper and deeper into the energy. So for instance, if you had the 5th degree of Gemini, Gemini is all about communication, so the 5th degree would be about attempting to go into deeper, fuller communication. Another frequency that I like very much is 17. Now, each one of these numbers has an astrological rulership, and that can be found in my book, The Circular Temple, which is on Kindle. 17 goes with Venus. And these are very old ascriptions, old rulerships for the numbers. This came from the Sefer Yetzirah, which is a Kabbalistic book of astrology, where 17 is said to be ruled by Venus. So in each sign, the 17th degree is going to have a Venusian quality, and is always looking for the real value of that sign. It's all about values because it goes with Venus. So for instance, 17 Gemini would be about the true value of communication and trying to get beyond any communication that lacks value or that's merely superficial, to go into a deeper sort of communication. The 20th degree of any sign is ruled by Mercury, and so it's about the communication of that sign, etc., etc. You can find all 30 of these frequencies in the book, The Circular Temple. Sometimes when I look at degrees, they hit me immediately. I look at that degree symbol and it's like just a light goes on. Boy, there it is. Other ones I look at and I draw a blank. What does that mean? I have no idea. If you draw a blank on a degree symbol when you're interpreting a chart, the best thing to do is remember that symbol and let it kind of work on your mind. Give it some time, maybe even several days. I've even had degree symbols where I've thought about for years, and then they will open up whole worlds to me. I want to say something about my own chart. One thing that dominates my chart is a Venus-Mars septile. And I work with the Mark Jones principles, where he has 4 planetary departments. And I only have one of those departments activated, which is the Department of Efficiency, and it's activated to that Venus-Mars septile. And so that septile becomes very, very important in my chart. Another very useful technique is, if you have a particular aspect in the chart that you're looking at or that's very important, you can take those 2 planets forming the aspect and look at the midpoint of them and look at that particular degree. Degree astrology is very useful in working with midpoints. And you can look at non-planetary points. It's wonderful to look at the nodes with degrees. This is very, very telling. Now, I know some of you use the true node and some of you use the mean node, and I want to say something about that. The true node is something we've discovered recently because of our scientific knowledge. We can now calculate exactly where the node is, whereas the older astrologers use the mean node, whose movement is very regular because it's kind of abstract. The movement of the mean node is perfect because it's so regular, whereas the movement of the true node is based on Earth wobble, Moon wobble, and physical sorts of things. Now, I don't think that one of these is better than the other. It's just that if you're using the true node, you're looking at the node more in terms of physical reality, whereas if you're looking at the mean node, you're looking more in terms of spiritual reality, because remember, its movement is perfect. And so you can actually derive a lot of information by looking at both of the nodes, both true and mean nodes, both north and south node. And this will give you even more information about the chart. You can also look at the ascendant, you can look at the midheaven, you can even look at the house cusps. And another thing that degree astrology is great for is relationship astrology. Composite charts. It's amazing to look up the degrees of composite charts. It's also highly interesting to look at the degrees of your progress chart. But now as you do this, you always want to remember that even though you're looking at progressed degrees, never let that override the natal chart, because those degrees you were born with is your essence. The degrees of the progressed chart shows how you're changing over time or what new influences are working on you. One thing you want to remember about degree astrology, it's very flexible. You don't have to read every single degree in a chart. In fact, if you want, what you can do is you can simply look at those planets which are most prominent. The planet may receive prominence by being in the closest square in the chart, or prominence by being the only planet in the whole upper half or lower half or eastern half or western half of the chart. Or it may be the sole dispositor of the chart. But whenever a planet becomes important in a chart, whenever it really gains power from one of these ways, then that degree that it's in becomes very important. And you can focus mainly on reading then those degrees. Now, you know, the older astrologers, when they looked at, say, Pluto, they'd say, well, you know, your Pluto is in Leo, and that's maybe not so specifically important because it was in Leo. Pluto was in Leo for 20 years, and so everybody born during that 20-year time span had Pluto in Leo. But the beauty of degrees is you can look at the individual degree that Pluto is in, that individual degree of Leo. For instance, mine's in 13 Leo, and then that tells me far more specifically about my Pluto. And it kind of, what it does is it makes that Pluto energy more personal to my chart. And so these outer slow-moving planets can be better integrated into the chart by looking at the particular degrees that they're in.